Ah, hello, Girish.
Hello.
I didn't realize that we were starting at 7:30.
I know it, why it happens.
Good. I'm glad I found out.
Very good.
Good.
So, welcome again. We are discussing about self-inquiry. Today's topic is negate false identifications and attachments to change the mind that begins the self-inquiry. Self inquiry means that I'm digging deep inside myself openly, without any reservation. If someone says you are crazy, so you remain calm and you ask him, "Oh, let me understood. Let me understand why I'm crazy and I'm ready to change." But if you say, hell with you, you are saying me crazy, how dare you say? So we are living unconsciously and habitually. That is what our master says. I know I'm intelligent. This guy is fool. I'm not doing self-inquiry. And without self-inquiry, awakening, realization, living in peace and happiness, not possible. Do whatever you want to do. So self-inquiry is very important because I'm not born with a particular trait, behavior, attitude, and personality. I grew up, and then I started developing those traits and attitude. Just think logically. We don't like self inquiry, we like others' inquiry. How bad one is, how rich one is, so that I should have some kind of superiority or inferiority. And until these thoughts and feelings are present in my mind, nothing is possible. Do meditation for 50 years. That is why you have heard people say that, "Oh, I've been practicing meditation for 20 years and nothing happened." Nothing will happen. Did you understand these principles? We normally like others' inquiry, not the self inquiry. I always like to get the heavy discount, but I always like to give anything with the highest price. Just one example. I do not think, I do not observe, I do not reflect, I'm not ready to spare anything which I received from the world. It means you are absent from the self inquiry. There is an absence of self inquiry. How that mind is created, we must know. We must find out if we are a seeker. If we are not a seeker, let us live. Who cares? That person is known as extremely selfish person. In Eastern wisdom, we say that person is the worst according to, because you are living with an impure mind. If that person does not meet, say for example, a person is the worst according to me, example, if that person does not meet my expectations. And when some other person expects from me, I do not meet their expectations, even if it is within my power. You see, this is what happens in our daily life. Master says that mind is veiled from the reality. That mind is absence of cooperation. But why we are talking of this kind of a self-inquiry? Because to find permanent happiness, to purify the mind, to start living in calm, peace, and the joy, to prevent us from being anxious, reactive, blaming, and complaining. That is why we are doing the self inquiry. Why and how that mind develops. It develops habitually. But why it develops habitually? All animals are selfish. They are programmed by the nature. So we feel it is better to remain programmed by the nature, not to apply our intellect for an understanding. It is an animal mind. With that animal mind, I put lot of thoughts in the intellect to identify myself. I define myself. Impure mind defines itself. That is known as identification. Understand that. So we identify ourselves with lot of things in the world. Identification works at the habitual level, impulsive level. It cannot leave you until you expand your mind, until you do the self-inquiry, until you start doing some unselfish activity. That is why, you see, you have heard it intellectually, but Eastern wisdom says we have to put ourselves into an action in the unselfish manner. If I'm not doing unselfish action, what is going to happen? Intellectually, I understand, but it has not traveled to the heart and the mind. It will not translate. Do whatever we want to do. Eastern wisdom is very clear about this principle. Identification. We are talking of the self inquiry. And in that self inquiry, we start recognizing that I constantly identify myself, I define myself with external factors like roles and possessions or social status. So, what is going to happen? It is not going to help you. Instead, it brings you down to the second level. We get an attachment. First, we define ourselves with the external factors, and you continuously living into that habit, that attitude, that response, it results into attachment. You have to observe, judge, and analyze these principles, simple principles in our life. First, I define myself, identification. Now, I constantly repeat those thoughts in my mind. It results into an attachment. That is known as attachment. Did I not tell you yesterday that I am intelligent? Now we are meeting today. You must appreciate me. Attachment. If you don't observe your mind, it is going to cause you anxiety. Now that I did not appreciate you, so when I leave you, "Oh, look at this guy, he claims that he seems to be a smart." So I'm doing others inquiry, I'm not doing the self inquiry. And we think that we are great people because of identification, because of attachment. So you see the series. First is the identification, second is the attachment. So now the attachment is so strong, it expresses in thought, speech, and action. It results into emotional dependence. From defining oneself to dependence on external factors leads to attachment, and attachment continues in my thought, speech, and action. It results into an emotional dependence. Once you reach to that point in your life, find out if you live in anxiety on small things, get reaction, are scared, have fears, you have this problem. Identification, attachment, and emotional dependence. I understand intellectually, it will not work. I understand intellectually, but mind does not understand unless you put the principle into practice, unless you show some thought, speech, and action which is unselfish. Then only the mind will change. Otherwise, the mind will not change. I'm not saying anything from my own. I'm just talking about these principles of Eastern wisdom. Have you seen some people? They are always helping, supporting, caring, sharing. They are automatically recognized in the society. And those who remain within themselves, they continue to do the others inquiry, keeping the identification, attachment, and emotional dependence. They are not recognized. Ah, okay, I know that guy. Oh, it's okay. It's better not to talk about this. So now you see identification and identification. Second is uh, second is attachment. Third is emotional dependence. Now, because there is a too much a burden on my mind all the time because of identification, so I have a binding desire. Where is binding desire? I'm always seeking happiness from others. Whether there is a situation, there is an event, there is a people, there is a relationship. Why don't you understand that, I love you, but you don't love me? Perfect example, perfect statement. Perfect statement of this process. No, I'm living alone because the world is crazy. Except you, the entire world is crazy. You are a part of the world. Are you not the world? Are you coming from seventh place in the heaven? We don't realize. Why? Because others inquiry. My mind is obsessed with others inquiry, not the self inquiry. That mind is extremely impure. And when you work with the impure mind through your thought, speech, and action, the selfishness is everywhere. It results into binding desire, and the binding desire. Now you see the journey. Binding desire always have a desire prompted action. Just see that. First, I define habitually and impulsively. Then I get an attachment. Attachment results into emotional dependence. Emotional dependence on a person thinks my mind starts seeking pleasure and happiness from others. One woman, I tell you that she always, for the last 3 years, she is with me. So she says, now again the Christmas come and I have lot of anxiety to host a party. Don't host a party. Why I'm hosting a party for 50 people? Because I must get an appreciation. Come on, it's a Christmas celebration. What you are doing? What you are doing? After 3 years, she took 3 years to understand this. So this Christmas passed very peacefully. Because I don't put myself into action, unselfish action, it is not going to change you. Do whatever you want to do. You check it yourself. So it leads to desire prompted action, which people notice, which we also notice. We also notice. Oh, but we take it habitually. It becomes a part of my personality, behavior, and attitude. We lose sight of helping, supporting others, including the near and the dear ones, and then we'll start abusing near and dear ones. That guy has not come to help me. We will find those people in the world. What is all this? What is this vicious circle? This vicious circle is known as the delusion. And the delusion leads to suffering and ignorance. And then, it continues, the vicious circle continues, the world, nobody is there. I become great philosopher. I become a great philosopher. Nobody is there. We are all living alone. You are crazy. That's why you are living alone. Hey, you just find out, near and dear, you and your family, those who is caring and sharing, they are loved, naturally loved. Your mind cannot feel and think bad of you. But those people who have a typical attitude, who knows they are selfish, but still they act like selfish because of the delusion. Delusion leads to suffering and ignorance. We have done the 6 conventional practices for the purification of the mind. If you had been doing some of them, it will definitely help you. But you are not doing, and you have directly come to the topic of this self inquiry, and still you don't realize, it will not help you. Very clear, it will not help you. So remember the identification, attachment, emotional dependence, desire. That desire is a binding desire. What is binding desire? I'm seeking happiness from you, from an object, from a person, from a relationship, from the society, from the nation. Who the hell you are that you are seeking happiness from everyone? They should meet your expectations. No, I directly came from the heaven. That is why I'm expecting happiness from everyone. But I'm not ready to give. Unselfish. Masters looks into very minutely this aspect. So identification, attachment, emotional dependence, desire, delusion, ignorance, and suffering. Because I don't recognize and realize that mistakenly, by mistake, I associate myself with the external factors. I should not do it. But the moment I associate myself with the external factors, It may be prestige and recognition or anything. It has to result into an attachment, an emotional dependence, and binding desire, and the delusion and the ignorance. This is what the master is saying. Start teaching your pet. Stop identifying with the food. I'm keeping the food here, and you go to the washroom and he eats the food. A very strong cycle of identification, attachment, and a binding desire. Both identification, starting from the to the delusion, they are a matter of ignorance. Why we are doing this self-inquiry, to recognize these movements in our life, to change our what to change? To change our mind. To change our mind is to change your behavior and attitude. To change your behavior and attitude is to change your personality. And to change your personality is to change your personal, professional, social life. How much money I will get if I change myself? What a great selfish attitude we have.
Mm.
Do you see? People ask me. We are doing a self-inquiry. Because there is a binding element in that vicious circle. That binding element causes the bondage, and because of the bondage, I am into anxiety and reaction, fear and failure and frustration. But there is no fundamental change in our life. So then what happens? We realize now that I'm born with lot of stress. I will die with the stress. Yes, definitely you will die with the stress. I don't put myself into action, but I put myself into selfish action all the time. Now you can easily answer why self inquiry is important. Yeah, meditation will help, but meditation plus the knowledge. Otherwise, what happens? Knowledge is not there. You are only practicing meditation. Just after the meditation, goody goody. But after a few hours, everything goes back to the same thing because my mind has not transformed. And then I blame the meditation. Oh, it's not helping. How it can help you? I have to recognize the identification. I have to recognize how the identification causes the attachment. Then I have to break the attachment mentally. And then I break the emotional dependence. I don't allow the entire vicious circles to complete, to put me into the delusion. For that, I have to think, speak, and act unselfishly. Then you will see, you will feel so good inside you. It is a matter of application. It's all a matter of practice. It's all a matter. That is why we see that all the great masters say, they say it and we don't recognize it. So that is why I thought better to explain this concept in principle coming from the Eastern wisdom. I have to be kind to others. Kind to others means unselfish to others. I should have a compassion. No, I should be unselfish to others. So how I have to be unselfish? I have to recognize this vicious circle of identification, attachment, emotional dependence, desire, finding desire, and then delusion, ignorance, and the suffering. My master used to say, you think, speak, and act unselfishly one day only and check if it has changed you or not. At your home. My honey is, what kind of a person he or she is, not listening. Let me drop this selfishness. Or he or she might be busy in something. Okay, let me do my work. And then see what happens to the mind. We don't think in this way. And then we blame others. Oh, then it's very easy to blame others and react to others. You don't meet my expectations. Very in-depth psychology. It explores and it uproots my hidden agenda of the selfish nature caused by, again, I'm repeating, identification, attachment, emotional dependence, binding desire, desire prompted action, which takes the shape of my behavior and attitude, shapes my personality. It is reflecting in my personality, and I'm trying to be unselfish, not possible. For example, the moment I stop giving the lessons to you all, you will say, look at this crazy guy. The mind will not take care, mind will not think. For years, I have been giving you the lesson. It will not give any credit. Think. This is what happens. So that is why the self-inquiry is most important. Method, not only to purify the mind, but to find my real nature. Close your eyes. The eyes are closed. Place, position, and the posture. Place, position, and the posture. So become aware of the space all around you. Find out the most comfortable position of the body and the posture. Being comfortable, I told you again and again, recognize that being comfortable means that I'm changing the direction of the mind. I'm changing the direction of the mind. You are looking at the neck joint and being there. You know, you feel, you are aware, you experience sensation, comfort, and steadiness. I'm making very simple and easy. You need not to have a lot of intellectual thinking. You just follow it and you understand it. But yes, use your intellect, keep your intellect in the present. What I said, you look at the shoulder joints. What is the meaning of looking? You know, you feel, you experience. So, what do you experience? Sensation, comfort, and steadiness. Of what? Of shoulder joints. So, we are talking of awareness. Now, that mental awareness is not scattered outside. It is on the shoulder joint, means you have changed the direction. That is our goal. So, looking at the entire body from the top of the head to the toes and experience sensation, comfort, and steadiness. How simple it is. I'm making it very simple. So now you see that now I'm aware of the space all around the body, and I have a right position in the posture. I'm not recommending any posture position. Whatever is comfortable to you is good for me also. And then we are comfortable. And now comfortable means the mind keeps looking inside. So when it looks inside, it is looking at the thought, feeling, emotions, what of the past or the future. So now we want to see they are separate. How they are separate? The sky is separate from the birds flying in the sky. The highway is separate from the traffic on the highways. You see that. You see every. Okay, yes, it is separate. Same way, all the thoughts jumping into the mind, coming in, going, leaving, are separate. So, at the physical level, how do I recognize the highway is separate from the traffic? That traffic constantly moves. Highway doesn't move. Oh, yes, but sometimes highway also appears to move. That is the perfect delusion, example of a delusion. Okay, that is why I say you to look deep inside the forehead in the space. In that space, that blankness, that darkness does not change. So what is changing? The thought, feeling, and emotions on the surface of that space. Like the traffic on the highway. I told you, like the birds flying in the sky. I make it very simple. So here the master, it is not saying it has nothing to do with the cult, religion, dogma, and belief. It has to do with understanding. Where is that understanding? Oh, using the mantra for changing the mind, using the mantra to change the mental pattern. So that aids into your self-inquiry. What is that? Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Let everyone be happy. Now you see that? Did you see that? Let everyone be happy. Now we are breaking that habitual pattern of which we are not aware. Let everyone be happy. You are repeating without any precondition, and gradually, what happens? Gradually, your mind begins to change. Sarve santu niramaya. Sarve, let everyone be in the state of the well-being. Very practical. But the intellect understands, but the mind will only understand if there is a repeat listening and learning, if there is a contemplation and reflection, and if there is a regular practice. But keep in your mind the goal from selfishness to unselfishness paves the way to self inquiry. Sarve bhadrani pashyantu. Let everyone, there be a blessing and the grace to everyone. You visualize, you see that through the mental images to your honey, how much against she or he is. No worries. Oh, let everyone be blessed. No, let no one suffer from misery in this world. No one, including whom I blame, complain. Why? Because it will help me change my own mind. It will help me break the vicious circle. Now, did you understand another way to, that is why we have been using this mantra. So in that state, in that state, in that state, mind goes deeper within. And mind goes deeper within. It is good way to start with another step, that is what I call the self-awareness. Self is small self who knows it. So when we say there is a false I, that false I is composed of the three bodies: the physical body, sense organs and the motor organs, the subtle body, which is the mind, intellect, memory, and ego. But who prompts me to become selfish? It is my ignorance. That is the third body. We say it is a causal body. Cause is cause of both. Okay, that is, now you mind, if mind says, now I understand, wonderful. If the mind has understood, it is very good. So now it is a good idea, again, I have been saying it again, that it is a good idea to purify the mind. So, how we purify the mind? There are many ways of purifying the mind, and one of them is alter the breathing. So, how we alter the breathing? You look deep inside the forehead in the space. Look inside the space inside the forehead and then start breathing gently. If I say a little quick and fast, through your chest. At present, we are doing quick and short breath into the rib cage. Just continue. Many our masters says that we should be doing for 9 minutes. We are not doing 9 minutes today, but just continue for 3 to 4 minutes. Anyone can do it. So when you are inhaling, when you inhale, you see the expansion of ribs. When you exhale, you see means feel. See, you feel the contraction of rib case. But the changes will be experienced inside the head or around the body. What do you mean? I may feel some tingling, some different form of sensation or freezing. We need not to worry. Just continue with the display. Just continue breathing gently. It is faster than the normal breathing. And stop it. So when you stop it, look at the flow of the breath. That is one way, the flow of the breath. Then you look at the entire body, from the top of the head to the toes, top of the head to the toes, and experience, feel sensation, relaxation, and stillness in the body. Good. And now look at the breath. When the breath goes in, no change in the rate and the rhythm of the breath. You drop Om Shanti. Om Shanti means that I'm the peace. When the breath comes out, you say Om Shanti. Breath goes in. Breath moves on its own. You are not changing the rate and the rhythm of the breath. You're watching and feeling the breath. Now, if your mind says, I'm not able to leave the breath normally because I changed the breath. Who is this I? This is what the vicious circle is. Can you leave the breath as it is and keep watching? Is it 100% possible? Just check it. So what happens that after 2 or 3 breaths, the mind returns and it changes the rate and the rhythm of the breath, and sometimes it forgets to drop the Om Shanti. That is why Master says repeat practice, repeat listening and learning, repeat understanding will help change the mind. What is changing the mind? That is the topic We are negating the false identifications and attachment to change the mind. For what? To change the mind. That begins the self discovery. You see? Understand it clearly. Either we fall into sleep. That too is the objection of the mind that I don't want to change. Mind changes the rate and the rhythm of the breath. That too, the insistent of the mind is that I'm not changing. The mind is carried away by any thought, feeling, and emotions. That too says the mind is not, I'm not changing. What is required? In those moments, we, Master says, please, listening, learning, repeat, practice, understanding, contemplation, and reflection, keeping the journal. How many times I went into anxiety, duality, and a conflict today? Let me reflect. It will work. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Bring your mind on the right hand, your mind on the left hand. Lift your both the palms, place it in your eyes, open the eyes inside the palms. Know your experiences and bring the hands down. We'll share our experiences now. How are you, John?
Hey, Girish, I'm fine. I had a lot of extraneous thoughts to deal with, but I will keep trying.
Yes, yes. I told you that if you analyze those thoughts, you will find a vicious circle. Otherwise, there is no requirement. It may be related to personal life, professional life, social life, family life. And the more we understand it clearly, it dissolves. Understanding reduces the impact. Practice helps me to experience. How are you, and
Yeah, I feel fine and peaceful.
very good. Very good. That's a good. You see that you all are welcome to oppose these principles logically, not illogically. You can be a part of that discussion. It is not a one way. How are you, Mead?
I feel calm, and I feel so clearly my habitual need to be validated by others,
Yes.
and to come back home to this beautiful practice to release that need.
Yes. To release that once and for all.
Mm.
So after a few hours, the same mental pattern starts. And same mental pattern starts. Then we are, for 1 week, we are living into the same attitude. And the next meditation helps me to get into the higher state. Why it is happening? Because there is no repeat listening and learning. I'm not becoming aware of that vicious circle. Or I take it for granted. Okay, thank you. Namaste. We will meet again
Namaste.
next week.